Um, so Susan Pointier couldn't be here. She had a family emergency, so I'll lead the meeting. So we'll do a round of introductions. Let's start the introductions with people who are on the phone.
Hi, this is Erin H. Fitzpatrick from Levine Community Health Center.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Is there anyone else on the phone?
Yeah, my name is Marina. Oh, go ahead. Miranda Marner, also of Show.
Hi. Welcome.
And I'm Dana from Levine Community Health Center. I'm a teammate of Erin.
Oh, nice. Could you repeat your name?
Dana.
Dana. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
This is Arvinder Singh. I'm the CHIP coordinator for Lake Hill District, Lake County.
You want me to go next? I'm Charlie Twada, I'm the district CEO.
I'm Diane Clay and I'm consumer advocate.
Excellent.
I'm Andrea Wishart and I'm the director of the Lakeview Senior Center.
Paul McGinnis, Eastern Oregon Coordinated Care Organization.
Francie Winters, I'm the prevention coordinator covering Lake County.
Michelle Totten, VHS Self-Sufficiency.
Gloria Stringer, Lake County Crisis Center Director.
Judy Clark, Director of Public Health.
Thank you, everyone. We also have Kevin Winter with us from the Examiner. So let's take a few minutes to review the minutes in your packet.
Somebody just joined us.
Did somebody join us on the phone?
Hi, it's Jillian.
Hi, Jillian. Welcome. We are just taking a few minutes to review the meeting minutes from January, Jillian.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. People not in favor, the same sign. Thank you, the minutes are approved. And so go to our agenda items, and Paul, you want to take it from here?
You bet. I have a couple of different things. First one is an update on our status for recovering the withhold money from 2019 for the incentive dollars. And the analytics people at the EOCCO ran what they had on the 11th of February. And as I said to the group before, we weren't optimistic on getting 100% of the money back, and we're still not optimistic. There's some that are iffy, but working on it to improve, but we need to get 15 of the 19 in order to get 100% of the money back. So there was a lot of speculation on what happened. I mean, we've gotten 100% of the money back, I think 4 to 5 years that it was happening. The other year that we only got 80% of the money back. And remember, this is the money that funds all the CAC stuff, pays for primary care, quality bonus measures, all of those kinds of things. There's also a quality risk pool, a pool of other measures, and we met several of those. And so it looked like we got 100% last time, but it doesn't look good for 2019. So when LCAC dollars are reconfigured, next year we'll probably have less money available to invest in community partners. So what's included in your packet is the 2020 incentive measures. And we'll just focus on the one page that has the 13 of them listed. The details of which are behind there with some strategies on ways to improve. As you may notice, we went from 19 to 13 incentive measures. And we are already in February, so hopefully, our community partners are working on several of these. So the first one is the alcohol, drug misuse, and screening. That's the SBIRT. It came back, screening, brief intervention, referral to treatment. So that's back on board. A common one throughout every year is the assessment for children in DHS custody. Somehow they're thinking we're making that one. And I'm just surprised how, when the numbers didn't look right in our monthly reports, but for 2019, I mean. Childhood immunization status, that's one that right now we're about 57.7%, and we need to get to 79%, and it's actually representing in the entire 12 towns for kids. So trying to go dig through alert and see if we missed something, or somehow somebody went to Washington, who knows what they're doing. Tobacco prevalence, this is 13 over who are screened for tobacco use and identified as a cigarette smoker. No, it does not include vaping. No, it does not include chewing tobacco. No, it's cigarettes that are at the measure. Depression screening, diabetes, hemoglobin A1C control, so you need to have less than 9 on your score there to call your patient control. Emergency department utilization for individuals experiencing mental illness. We had 2 emergency department measures last year. They dropped the just overall utilization one and focused specifically on people with a diagnosis of severe and persistent mental illness. Immunizations for adolescents. And if you read this one, it's when they turn 13 this year. If they haven't had the meningococcal, Tdap, or the HPV, and some of these require 2 doses. So really your target audience for this is 11-year-olds. Because it's going to take that time. So I don't know how many members in Lake County turned 13 already in 2020, but we missed that, for sure. So, I mean, you got to think further upstream with these immunization ones. Question there, Charlie? You're thinking on something.
I wonder if there's a way that we can identify all 10 through 13-year-old kids to identify, because if they're 12 or 13.
Yeah,
We can get them through the school,
Yeah.
but that's not 100%, but it's a big portion. I have that information through the school.
Can't we get that list from the CCO membership?
well, it's actually, I'm busting, her last name is McLean, I believe. That runs her clinic now.
Karen,
Arcadia has that.
that's provided it actually pulls the information correctly.
Well, but that's just a demographic piece of information, not their utilization or anything, but, you should have member age to be able to sort by date of birth and figure out who the early ones are.
The problem is there's not school exclusion at that age. So you don't see that age for immunizations at all until they hit 7th grade. So there's a huge gap there. In 7th grade, that's where I can get them for Tdap, their first HPV, and their meningococcal.
How old is the 7th grade?
That's 13.
Okay.
So that's 12, 13 age. Anybody who comes in for a flu shot or anybody who comes in with a sibling, I look them up and shots starting at 10. And that's how I can get some of them. But the real kicker is can't get them usually until that 6th grade. It'll start popping up that they're due for those. 7th grade, they're excluded from school, and that's when they come in and get them most of the time.
Dana, can you get those through your software in La Pine Clinic?
Are you there?
We are.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I'm brand new, so I feel like maybe Erin would be a better person to ask that question. Erin, are you there? I am, yes. Yeah, thanks for taking that. Yeah, we would probably be able to identify, those kids. We also get from VOTA the gap list that should have, I'm not sure when they'll be coming out with a new measure, but those should have everyone's names.
You know, they usually wait until there's some claims built up so that the reports actually make some sense, because if we sent you a gap list now, it would just be all empty. It'd be, everything's a gap pretty much for the services. So it's usually May. And then in June, we start sharing back to the county, you know, the reports that we see each month, but that's specific to that clinic in Christmas Valley and your clinic and Warner Mountain. All get separate reports about patients assigned to you and what the gaps are.
But we should be able to start getting, we should be able to get demographic information
Absolutely.
and start the process of saying, okay, this is our population, then we start sorting out who we think we know has gotten it, and then start getting them on our to-do list of people to contact.
Right, and then I just pulled the cost of utilization report. This was last year. And remember, we had 41% of people on the Oregon Health Plan, EOCCO, in the southern part of the county, because we get this report north and south. 41.7% consume no primary care services. And then we asked, what's the demographics of that group? 5 to 14-year-olds represent 33% of them. So that's where we're missing when you're saying trying to get them in. And not only that, they don't even go for primary care.
Yeah.
So, next one was initiation and engagement of alcohol and drug treatment. I don't know what kind of behavioral health counselors you may have in your primary care clinic.
We have an LCSW, we have an LCSW almost.
Are they doing stuff with substance abuse? Counseling around that?
Probably no, we're probably redirecting that
Okay,
to
over
the
here.
wellness center.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Probably.
whether people go,
They are doing some.
whether people
We
go
had a meeting
over.
with them, she was in the meeting today for the rural opioid, and so she did say that they did some there. And I'm gonna guess that that would be a small number that doesn't want to go into the other clinic for whatever reason.
Right.
There's stigma, there's all
Yeah, exactly,
a variety of different
exactly.
reasons, and we try to accommodate them. So it's conceivable that we are taking care of some clients there.
In the materials behind there, Charlie, if you're looking at engagement, people who are doing medication-assisted therapy, that's, I believe, considered engagement. So, the oral evaluation for adults with diabetes, I don't know how it happened. I mean, we're looking at numbers that look like we did 13 of them out of 1,500 in November. But all of a sudden, we're supposed to beat that measure. And the Advantage people, I don't know who's on the phone from Advantage.
Vanessa Marlin.
Yeah, Vanessa, I don't know what you guys did, but you know, it was a December oral health for people with diabetes screening miracle.
Yes.
So what was what was the strategy?
I'm not sure. I know that we did have a lot of people that were coming in that were not on our diabetic metric list, but in their health history they filled out that they were diabetic, so I reported that back to the state manager, and maybe that helped.
Well,
It was a full evaluation. You couldn't just line people up. They all had to have x-rays and all that kind of stuff. So it was,
Yeah.
we're glad to get there. Number 11 is different. We used to see the dental sealants, which we believe will make again, thanks to Advantage. But they've done so many sealants now, there's less unsealed available, it's harder to do. So they're making that preventive dental service for, kids 1 to 5 to get in and actually have a dental visit. And then, another common one, timeliness of prenatal and postpartum care, good to go there. And then what they're calling kindergarten readiness, but it's that there's a well child visit in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th years of life. They're assuming that if they get that screen and that, they'll be ready for kindergarten, but that's the implication. My issue with that is if one of the measures that we did very well at, and it took us about 5 years to get to do it very well at, was developmental screens for 0 to 36-month-olds, the ages and stages questionnaire. If we wean ourselves off of that and start focusing on 3rd, 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, then we missed that opportunity to actually really get them ready for kindergarten. Because in our assessment across the region, I don't remember specifically for Lake County and the school districts here, but it was the social and emotional area of the kindergarten readiness assessment that we were lacking on. Well, they knew capital letters and lowercase letters and could do their sounds and things like that, but it was the social emotional readiness for it.
We don't have preschool.
That's part of it, I guess, but that's what happens when we stop doing counting the adolescent welfare visits. We stopped colorectal cancer screening. We've taken out a number of the measures that communities had direct involvement in, and we're finally got success in being able to go and drop it down to 13. We believe, hasn't been named yet, but we think we're going to have to meet 11 of these next year in order to get, and we're not getting the money back. And if you've ever read anything about behavioral economics, so that's basically how people think about money, the state is giving the CCOs that money, and then if we don't meet the measures, we got to pay them back.
Oh.
That's very different than them withholding it and then giving it to you later in terms of just how you approach it now. So that's a change for 2020. So
No pain, no gain.
the guide is out. It's like trying to get people to opt into a retirement plan at work, right? I mean, if you wanted to do it, make them opt out. Rather than just make universal opt-in, which is what we tried to do with some of the screenings in schools, and people.
We get a lot of people getting care.
Yeah. So anyway, the guide is here. Keep it handy, use it for your providers. Can't say that this is official, but it will be voted on February 21st at the EOCCO board meeting, but the clinical advisory panel is particularly for the quality measure pool for Warner, for Lapine, and for Lake Clinic. There'll be 32 points available, and the ones that they're emphasizing for you are diabetes control, cigarette usage, well child visits, ED usage for members with mental illness, both immunization measures, childhood immunizations in adolescents, depression screening, and SPERT. So I don't know, Charlie, if you can share, it's a nice check. If you meet these points, part of that big chunk of money goes to the providers for meeting the quality measures. I don't know, you remember what you got last year? The checks came about a month or two ago.
I don't know off the top of my head.
But it's in the neighborhood of 100 to 200,000, I'm sure, somewhere in there. That's what you would have the ability to get.
I don't think it was quite that.
We might remember that.
So that will be voted on Friday. Any questions?
I will be at that board meeting to make sure that I vote. Just saying.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
You bet.
No other updates, Paul?
No. I'll do some There's gonna be some staff changes. You want me to do it now?
However you like, you wanna do it during the public comments?
Sure.
We will. So next, let's go
We're
to
not
the,
limiting you.
Yeah.
so next, the chip updates. So again, in your packet, after the incentive measure guide, you'll see a flyer that says call to action. Has a lot of colorful logos on one page. So the Eastern Oregon Healthy Living Alliance
Next slide.
has informed the Oregon counties that they serve in about the Oregon call to action on climate, health, and equity. So this is a push so that the state recognizes climate change as a public health emergency. The flyer has a list of priorities that they want to push for. This will in turn involve adopting new policies at the state legislation, new investments and new regulations. So what I'm aware about the response for environmental regulations in the past for Lake County has been mixed. So I thought it would be a good time to kind of get what the council feels about such a push, climate change, public health emergency. Do you feel LCAC, and we are representing the community of Lake County, do you feel this is something that we would want to get behind? Any comments, please let me know. I'll give you a few minutes just to go over the priorities.
I can give you my opinion. I think
Sure.
that it is all excellent, as long as it doesn't cause have a negative impact on life in rural Oregon. Oftentimes, the discussion is we want to do things to strengthen or reduce our greenhouse emissions. But in my view, sometimes we get overzealous to think that in our rural setting, and the few people that we have, the impact that we can do doesn't have as much impact as a large city in another part of the world that emits significantly more than we do. So that becomes paramount that we are interested in these things, but rather focus on what the cost is before we cut off our nose to spite our face. Just saying.
And this is exactly the reason I wanted to have this discussion, because I've been in other meetings and I've had this discussion with other community members. And for example, one thing keeps coming up. So Lake County had a thriving logging industry, and there were some environmental regulations, and the logging industry kind of died down, which affected the economy. So I've always seen that there is skepticism when it comes to pushing for something like climate change, and the worry is that there'll be regulations and it'll cost, and more time and effort will go into something that won't benefit us.
There was a really good article the other day, an editorial in the newspaper that talked about sustainable, work with ranches and stuff, and they're like, oh, that's just good ranching, or that's just good farming. And so what her point, I think, was that everything that they were talking about, they just gave it a fancy new name, and that the ranchers and farmers have been doing those things, whenever they could for all along. And so sometimes when the name is carrying a lot of baggage, but the actual reality of it is really something that is already, foundational caretaking activity in our community. Number 9, ensure that those impacted have the voice, power, and capacity to be full partners in building a healthy, equitable, and climate resilient future. Honestly, I keep wondering if our kids were bombarded with the pros and cons no matter what their family, excuse me, or their teachers or their school or the community thinks, it doesn't, I'm not saying whether they're on one side or the other, but the fact that the kids are hearing this all the time, and the question has got to be in their mind, what does this mean for me? And I think that if we don't talk about it, that we're adding to their stress. That's just my opinion. I think that they, we're blaming a lot of stuff on phones and a high rate of depression among our young people and screen time and a lack of social interaction. But there's some things that it seems like we're not talking about that maybe we should.
Always, at the end of the day, a lot of this is about the great urban-rural divide. Not only am I an educator and superintendent, but I'm also a rancher. I'm a partner in the ranch out of Adel, and every time these things come up, it's a full frontal assault on us. From regulating some rangelands to increasing this, if this cap and trade goes through, it's going to be disastrous for us and for the timber industry. And I think as far as the emissions that we emit, it's just minuscule compared to what is emitted in the cities.
Yes.
So I just, I'm very passionate about this from the ranching side of things. I can't speak to what we're teaching to at the schools.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know what side of the divide we're on that, but we face, on the ranch we face Mother Nature.
Yeah.
If it's a good snow year, we're great. Next year there's no snow, we're in a drought and we're in trouble. Or we're at the mercy of the market. We have that to contend. There's so many other elements that we already contend with, and to put this on, I think is just absolutely ridiculous. So, anyway, got my 2 cents there.
I kind of think that, kids in urban areas are more likely to be more concerned about, climate change and all of that. I think here the kids are more apt to think like you did and what you said. I think that's not a big deal. But I can see that our community's doing a lot of this.
They are actually, yeah.
So that's pretty encouraging to me, and kids through different groups at school, participate in some of this.
I mean, we've got geothermal at the long-term care and LCRI, we got the renewable. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that are already on here. And I'm not trying to say, well, I know one way or another. I just wonder.
I didn't get that at all. Crazy. But my family has been in Adel for 116 years. Now, if we didn't have the belief in sustainability and crucial things related to the environment in that regard, we wouldn't be in business.
Exactly.
So, the other thing too that irritates me on ranting here is this issue of cow burps, farts, or I can't get on board with that either.
Yeah. Well, there's a huge difference between ranching out here and the kind of ranching, or not ranching, but when you have cattle in a feedlot and then you're just feeding that, and that's a hot mess. And this is the way it should be. That is terrible, stinky, messy. Yeah.
That's in Morrow County, MOROW, and it was milk cattle when the Tillamook Dairy Creamers Association tried to create Tillamook cheese products out in Morrow County because of the distribution point, and there was so much contamination of the groundwater that the state fined them and closed them down. It was a separate, but that's what you're describing. That's not your cow wandering on the hill.
Yeah. I've seen it in Nevada too. I'm like, guys, if you don't have pasture land and enough, rain to grow, why are you doing this here? It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, my family are very close. My cousins on the farm and my grandfather grew up, and they have very strict, runoff situations as far as the dairies go back there, and they got their own version of DEQ that really is on top of it and monitors that.
Well, we have to keep in mind that there are different parts of a distribution system of agriculture. And then what we see in Lake County versus what is the prevalence of feedlots and how we handle the industrialization of raising animals for consumption. It is nothing at all the same.
Or onions or sugar beets and, I mean, all of that
So-
over in Malheur County too.
What we see is, and what are the realities that impact our entire country
We
are
like
certainly
it.
very different.
We like increased investment in active transportation, right?
Yeah, so just looking at it, the points 3, 4, and 5, I feel is something we can get behind. I also feel that they need to provide us with more details and information of this whole process, or do we have to pick the priorities which suit our community, or we have to get behind all of them? So I still feel, yeah, there's a lot of detail and information missing.
So when we talk about active transportation, I would assume that means bicycling.
Oh,
If that's
that's good too.
bicycling,
Or shared rides and those kinds of things. Yeah.
so I'm thinking active, which means walking, bicycling
Yeah,
as
yeah.
active transportation.
Yeah.
If that's the case, and we want to spend a great deal of money to widen roads or limit roads so that we have more pedestrian and bicycling friendly facilities, from a Lake County standpoint, it would be lovely to widen our roads so that we have just bicycling areas. But I'd like to see our 140 a little bit more straightened out, or not quite so lovely before we spend a lot of money on our bicycling.
Well, being an ADL guy, I totally agree with that. Creek Canyon, Doherty Slide, you know, something.
Right.
Yeah,
So when we think about, these are great platitudes.
yeah,
But
good point.
as long as they are done in such a fashion that doesn't hinder other things, our priorities need to be, in my view, thought through.
I will share that if you recall this year, the Eastern Oregon Coordinated Care Organization Community Health Plan, we had to have 2 areas in our plan that matched the state health plan priorities. And climate was one of the options in that list. We didn't pick it.
Right.
We picked food insecurity and early childhood stuff, but
choice.
you know, I can say this, the conversation in Harney on Tuesday was very similar to this, and the decision was to punt.
What does it mean engage the health sector voice in climate policy and action? Does it mean the OHA is going to, start putting money into that as one of the upstream issues? What does it mean?
This is not the OHA, this
I
is the
know, but
Oregon Public Health Association that's pulling this together. There's a difference, right?
Yeah, but
One
aren't they
state
going to
government,
try
the
to
other.
influence up?
Well, yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Right. But I can't speak for them.
Incorporate climate solutions into all healthcare and public health systems. What do you think that means?
Build a garden on your roof. I don't know.
And that's not healthcare and public health systems. See, Charlie started making me think about what it really meant. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know what that means.
I think it would mean additional codes and regulations for the clinics and
How do you have a climate solution? How do you have a climate solution in that case? What, you're trying to do recycle? We don't have recycle.
Zero use buildings, right? I mean, there's buildings.
Well,
that-
true, leave buildings, but if we're not gonna rebuild, we don't have those kind of money.
But if you were building something new, they could say, like
It'd have
they
to be
do now,
recertified.
your zoning laws would maybe saying in here or in my community, you build a house, you build sidewalks. For
Or like
walkability.
Right, oh
Or
yeah,
like in California, now all new buildings have to have solar. So you cannot build a new facility, a new house, you have to add the $15,000 on top of the construction cost to ensure that it has solar facility, or solar receptacles. Well, that's a great idea, you have to keep in mind that it is far more efficient, far more money, there's much more money saved if you build a solar farm for a lot of facilities rather than putting solar on your rooftop. Not that that's a bad thing, but given a choice, what's the most economical way to provide solar energy? build farms.
Mhm.
That is the logical thing to do. But then you also have to build transportation systems and transmission systems and
But while you have a relationship with the Lake Community Advisory Council, because they put you on the Eastern Oregon Healthy Living Alliance Board of Directors, it's good that you came back and asked, but that's an independent 501c3 organization that has the authority and sovereignty to make its own decisions.
Okay.
We can advise them, but they get to choose.
Well, so thank you for the feedback.
it's all
Yeah.
helpful.
It is, and if I get any more information on this, I might share it with you in the next meetings, but I guess as of now, we are not completely on board with getting behind the call to action.
Well, you know, you give Lakeview credit for one thing, it's the Bluestone conditions and how they've, tightened that up. That's noteworthy, to say the least. Completely outgoing, carrying anti-environmental group, you can add that in as a plus.
But if you call Lake County Resources Initiative and you ask them what they've done already and what they have planning, you're gonna get a whole bunch of stuff that Lake County's already doing. Who was it that said, oh, I know, I think it was Jim Walls.
Nick Taylor?
Yeah, but Nick Johnson. But yeah, but I think it was Jim Walls the other day said, I think, I'm not positive, but if my math is correct and I have analysts now going over it, I think that Lake County is going to be able to be carbon neutral in the next, whatever it was, many years. Now, and so therefore, if you have that before you go to the meeting, that may be worthwhile. And then because they can do that, that may mean that gives a whole bunch of other businesses and organizations, that are already existing, we offset it and we're fine, and we get to keep surviving, and so I would check with him, honestly.
All solar that's going in there too.
Yeah, I would like to get all this data and kind of advertise it even more.
Yeah, ask Nick, he'll have that information.
Okay. So you'll see another form after the call to action one. So at the last CHIP meeting, I did hand out these forms. So EOCCO wants each LCAT to get this demographics filled out by the members and submitted back to them. So if you have the time, could you fill it out and give it to me by the end of the
Did
meeting?
you fill it out? We give it to us last time and then we
Yeah,
fill it out?
so I already have yours.
Okay.
So yeah, those of you
Only
who did,
those that didn't.
yeah, who weren't there for the last meeting, if you could fill it out and hand it to me.
It's not.
Yeah, it's anonymous.
EOCCO is collecting them, it's a requirement from the Oregon Health Authority under CCO 2.0. Their intention is that the demographics of the local community advisory councils match the demographics of the communities as a whole. And what my experience is gonna be is that that would mean that in our 12 Eastern Oregon counties, 95% of the people are female. Because that's who's on our community advisory councils getting things done in the community, for the most part.
Our demographic for the area is not 95% female.
No, but I mean, look around, it's just, we're supposed to try to match it, but it's few.
Did you say it was feudal?
FUTILE.
Oh, I was making a joke. Okay.
It's the way to go, ladies.
And you don't have to put your name on it.
No, just scratch the little boxes and turn it into our ribbon.
So the next CHIP update, Helena, our food for service member, hosted a Martin Luther King Day of Service event on January 20th at the Fremont Elementary School. Parents and children attended the event, and the event had garden-themed crafts like bird feeders, paper pots for seeds, and home for worms. and there were snacks and refreshments were available, and the event was a success. We saw a really good turnout. Next update, we are in the middle of our Living Well with chronic pain classes, which are held at the senior center, and our chronic pain support group is also ongoing. Next update, so we conducted our point in time unsheltered people count. Just wanted to share that homeless is no longer the politically correct term anymore. People prefer unsheltered. Just thought I'd share that.
It hasn't caught on. There was a headline in my paper that talked about homelessness.
Oh, they did?
Today, so it did say unsheltered people amongst us.
So if you live in it's unsheltered. If you live in a sheltered place, you're not homeless?
There are options where you are living under a shelter but still considered unsheltered, because like if you're doing couch surfing.
Unsheltered shelter?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's an unsheltered shelter, not a homeless shelter, it's an unsheltered shelter.
Excellent.
They want to remove the term homeless from the lexicon.
Okay.
Great, so that just obfuscates things even more,
Yeah.
It does.
you know, because it's.
Apparently, Oregon Department of
You guys
Education
have
hasn't done,
account.
yeah, Oregon Department of Education hasn't done that memo yet, because everything they sent out to us. So,
Yeah, I myself found out about it on January 29th when we did
we have
that.
to count on that, we have to report it, we received some grant funding, grant help. Unless we're unsheltered.
Look, he's already got it. I'm sheltered.
Okay.
Maybe if you report it wrong, they'll withhold funds.
Could happen.
You gotta certify the results too, I hear. At a point in time, unsheltered count.
Yeah, I was gonna just share that.
Oh, okay.
So January 29th was the date we did the point in time unsheltered count. So we had teams in Christmas Valley and Paisley, which was led by Commissioner James Williams, and a team in Lakeview, which was led by me. So we had folks from Klamath and Lake County Action Services who were down here in Lake County, and they supported our teams with the point in time count. And also there are new rules and there's a new app, so they made us familiar with all of that. So I received an email just 2 days ago from the director of class, and so far the point in time count for Lake County is at 151. And as many of you know, last couple of years the official count for Lake County was 3. And some other data was out of the 151, 29 of them answered that they have substance abuse issues.
Under our definitions, I think the greatest percentage of homeless that we now count are either multiple families living under one roof, or they're living in an RV or travel trailer. That's in our definition too.
With or without water?
Well, in most cases, there are trailer parks that are filled with water. I can't speak to them without water. I think there's more than that.
Paul was talking about how in other counties where there's a water shortage, even though people that have homes, their wells are running dry. Harney County. So these are significant issues.
Yeah, I think North Lake County, I've heard a number of them up there. So, easy through my superintendent up there.
And the criteria we used for the unsheltered people count was similar to that, because we did go to RVs, and so if people living in an RV but they don't have energy or water, so they are considered unsheltered. So as much as we could, we did reach out, and there are many who don't want to interact with us because they think we are from the Child Protective Agency or the cops. So
when will the official count from class occur?
So
Designation.
yeah, so they are saying before the end of February they should have the official count, because online there is a portal. If you check online, it shows 200, but I guess they still have to screen all of those. So the email that I got, they have said that it's 151, and I think in another discussion, they said that before the end of February, they will give us the official count.
I think that they think that they're politicians, not Trump. That's why more answer the door. I'm just kidding.
Well, of course, this year is the US Census, so there's a lot
Oh,
of
right.
information will be buried on that too.
I'm hoping to mirror those.
It's a tragic situation for our county
Sorry.
and something we have to be very mindful of. The fact that we're getting better counting and more accurately certified information helps us, I think, as we think about as healthcare focused leaders. What do we do to try and address some of these very difficult problems?
And it also allows us to apply for grants which are related to the unsheltered population, like a grant for supportive housing, anything. And unless we have an official number, like more than 3, I guess it's challenging to apply for those grants.
How different is it from last year's?
So last year we did a count where my estimate, we did it at the gathering place. And it was very different from the one we did this year because we kind of informed the community that we are doing this event at the gathering place and you will get blankets and gloves and other amenities. And so a lot of people showed up and we filled out forms with them. My estimate was around 50. However, and we had 2 staff members from class who were here and we gave them the forms. Then we got information that 2 months after that date, both of that staff had resigned and all the data was lost. So we were back to our official number being 3. However, this year, so I think for the last years, it has been a 1-digit number. So it's definitely an improvement and will help us with applying for more grants. Next week on February 22nd, we have an expo at the Lake County Fairgrounds. We'll have Lake County Community and Health Partners, even businesses from Klamath over there, and I'll have a station over there. Just wanted to inform the council about.
What's the expo promoting?
So they promote all kinds of things. There are businesses that promote what they are doing, what's new with their businesses. We have health partners who also have a station. So in my station, I'll also be advertising for the Food Co program, and also the applications for the new year of Food Co have started, so I'll probably advertise for that. We'll also advertise for the summer lunch program. There'll be openings for that. And we have a clinic station, we have the prevention department, just bragging about all the good stuff we are doing. Get community buy-in. Though that's all for the CHIP updates. Christy also couldn't be here. She wasn't feeling well. I did ask for her for any grant updates. She said that there are no relevant grant updates at the moment.
There better be.
She said she hit the grant to the deadline.
No, there's the public health one that's due next month. That's exclusive to public health. Did she talk with you about what you guys wanna do?
Yes, you're talking the opioid one?
No, I'm talking the EOCCO one that's only available for public health, but there's all those community partners that were identified.
Right.
And
We've talked about a couple. That one was one that we didn't feel like we could do.
oh, you gotta do something. It's like free money.
No, it's not. Okay, so I was part of the conversation, and the reason we're gonna say, if you can convince Christy otherwise, but what they needed to be done had to be done by public health, not by other community partners, according to what she read, and therefore we couldn't come and do, I mean, we looked at this, we're like, well, couldn't I do this and this and this, and then, and they're like, no, it has to be done by public health, so she's letting that one go.
You're talking about the technical assistance grant for public health?
No,
No, this is the EOC that set aside between $250,000 and $500,000 for public health only. This is an appeasement, is what it is, because the regional community advisory councils have advised in their annual report to the board the last 3 years, public health should get a PMPM just for helping us meet the incentive measure. But the board has decided not to do that, but they did set aside money for public health. Now, the way I'm looking at this, I'm not sure why it became so difficult.
talk to her.
Yeah.
You could convince her otherwise, but
It's due the 1st of March. The amount of money would be, no less than 8,000 and no more than 30,000.
Oh, right, that's the one where the numbers didn't add up at the last meeting. Said how many public health bills.
And this is over 3 years, right?
Well, it says that this pot of money is supposed to support projects over 2 to 3 years. And so there's between 250 and 500 available. So I don't know.
it doesn't pay for a whole nother person. I mean, I remember asking, will this pay for the difference between a nurse for that public health and the,
Well, we've been looking
all
at
those
3
things.
lately, and, yeah.
I mean, even doing stuff around parenting support is listed there, roots of early childhood trauma. I don't know.
I'll follow up with Christie.
Yeah.
Before.
But that's due March 1st.
Christie does have a lot of it.
Well, and I think, like I said, I think she's looking at a few of them for public health, and the problem is we just don't have the staff to take on stuff right now too. We're struggling. And you wanna grow, but you can't take on some stuff if you can't fulfill what you have to do. I apologize, she goes through them all and looks at them, and we regroup, and I trust her advice on whether we think we can swing it or not, because she just knows how all of it's put together. And I'm with Francine, I can't pull out the specifics because it's been a while since I talked to her about it, but there was reasoning why we dropped that.
Okay.
But we'll
But
reinvestigate.
only you guys are
Right.
eligible, so I mean,
that was the thing. I kept trying to find some way, couldn't we
well, she can
get
pass
the
the
money and
money,
do this?
she can pass the money for you. It's hard
But
to
I think
fill any
but I
MOU.
think she's been on phone calls trying to ask stuff like that. I think she's worked some angles to try to figure out how to make that work.
Okay.
We'll follow up.
Yeah,
with her when she's
yeah.
back.
But when you said no updates, that's fine.
Well,
And
the
rightly
art
so.
plan
But I will say,
is in the strategic plan session, the regional opioid thing. We're through needs assessment, we're deep into the strategic plan part, we're almost finished with that and almost ready to go into the work plan. And you know, it's complicated. So that's the update, that she's working really hard on it. And she has started on the implementation grant now, the programming grant that would come out of this. She has started on that because our RFP came down, and so she's started working. So that's that.
and one other thing around grants, again, it won't be official until next Friday because the OCCO board needs to vote on it, but the 3 applications from Lake, I sit on the subcommittee that makes the recommendation, all 3 were accepted, fully funded. So 50,000 for the ED mental health one, which is your CAM program, the navigator, and she usually comes to the meeting. 11,000 for diabetes control. There's a contingency on that, but you'll get the money, they just want you to do something different, I can't remember, there was 50 grants. And then the LTAC's 53,000. So likely that'll be announced the week afterwards. Those funds can begin to be spent March 15th.
And will that includes that Sources of Strength program that's coming into your school, the high school, that Lane agreed to have staff get trained in that?
I believe so, yeah.
It is, no, I'm saying it is, they've already
approved.
approved. We're good to go on that.
It's going to the road like too.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, even Mr. David signed off.
Yep.
So that's right. So that kind of completes the updates. Paul, before we do public comment, did you want to share the staff changes?
Sure, if you're not aware, and it's been a couple of weeks, I resigned my position with Greater Oregon Behavioral Health, and I'm done at the end of this month. There's some big shake-up at Gobi. The director, Kevin Campbell, was released from his duties. The chief financial officer was released on Tuesday of this week. There is no malfeasance with money, no behavior things. But we're going broke, and very quickly. I was employee number 33, and I think we got up to about 180, and I'm still not sure what people were doing. Trying to get back to the core function. Karen Wheeler has been named the interim CEO, and they're going to do a search from there. There were a number of decisions that were made over time that I kind of questioned, and they didn't pan out. But I had actually resigned before, like 3 days before Kevin was released. So, Tracy Blood and Linda Watson will team up to serve the Lake Academy.
Okay. You said Linda Watson, right?
Yep, and Tracy Blood. Tracy will be the lead.
You retiring?
That's the word, public word. No, I need several more years of health insurance. Four and a half to be exact.
We'll miss you.
I'll miss you guys too, but you may, I'll resurface somewhere. I can tell you that. I'm not too worried.
Oh, I am, but I'm bragging about it.
You're
Retired.
Yeah, I saw that they were doing a search for your place, yeah. And there was no malfeasance, no.
Our last thought said you're clean. As far as behavior thing, I haven't been caught yet.
So either
If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer. I mean, I've just been saying Kevin's heart was bigger than his wallet. And, you know, there were a lot of, boom, here's $100,000. Boom, here's, you know, all over the place too. So.
They were paying for a lot of rent stuff for people in treatment and SUD and stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, what we, as a part owner of the EOCCO, I mean, over $15 million we took in dividends in 3 years. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's just Gobi.
Yeah.
Motor took 15 million, the others, you know, if there was 10% owner, they were at 1.5 million. That's your money to do what you want with. That's where the growth came from. That's what it's there. The new CCO contract that started January 1, all CCOs have to have more in reserves to be able to pay for something if there's excess cost, right? Because, I mean, if you get a dividend, it also means you're responsible for paying for all the expenses beyond what you get from your global payment. So, yeah, things are scattered up there. So if you're wondering where people are, there's folks that are being released or leaving voluntarily.
I had a question. So either Tracy Blood or Linda Watson will, for the next NCAC meeting, will they be?
They will be. They were supposed to be here to this one, but when we moved it from yesterday to today, Tracy's, I think she said it's her daughter. It's senior night at their basketball thing. So,
Okay.
And Linda's actually Tracy's kid's grandmother. So they were both there. Otherwise, they would be. They pretty much do everything with the great cat.
Okay. Well, it's super sad to see you.
Yeah, I noticed.
Such a bummer news on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, right? Give me another cookie.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
We're gonna put them in parts.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
So we'll do public comments. I was thinking we can just go around the table if you have anything to share with your department or anything else, or you can just decline if you don't. Gloria, do you want to start?
Yeah, okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm wearing orange because this is the awareness color for teen dating violence. And so we're basically trying to encourage people periodically throughout the month to wear orange. And my t-shirt has the number one thing. And so we have these cards that I'm gonna pass around. I don't know how many I've brought, but I'll just get you all started. And keep one, give it to a teen or someone you know, and the hashtag number one things will actually connect them with the different organizations that have information about teen dating violence. And also, I'm just gonna pass these around. These are stats, just kind of look at them and pass them around. 1 in 3 young people experience teen dating violence, and so it's important to bring that awareness. We attempted to have an event on the 12th and put some time and effort into it through the school, and I think you saw the flyer we have for the movie event. We were gonna do pizza, free pizza, drinks at TJ's, and we passed out 224 flyers with tickets at the high school, and only 2 kids responded.
Oh.
And we planned it so there was something, no events that day, sports. Looked at the calendar, spoke with Mr. Stratton, and just 2 kids. It was February 12th. And so we started advertising it the week before with the flyers, and then we did some promo spots on the radio, and also Mr. Stratton's staff did announcements, and that's all we had.
But Gloria, I just want to interrupt and say, the fact that you didn't get a large turnout on something that is difficult for people to think about or to talk about, I wouldn't be disappointed at all. I think the fact that you're telling people, this is very difficult for people to believe it happens. So just talking about it, just publicizing, even if they didn't go. If you do it again, I'll bet you'll get more turnout.
Possibly.
But I think it's just absolutely
I
marvelous.
was looking at that one stat that was in the back where it said people who were in an abusive relationship didn't even know they were in one.
Right.
What was it, 70-something% or something like that?
Right. But I think
So
part
that's,
of it.
that's part of it, is how we define it too, it's the sheltered homeless, so, what language we use around it.
It's very true. I think the language that I've heard for domestic violence, sexual, they're going back to, instead of victims and survivors, to now persons who've experienced domestic violence or persons who've experienced sexual assault or sexual violence instead of sexual assault. But I think what you said, Charlie, is true. A lot of the kids probably going in to pick up the tickets probably felt like, if I go in there, I'm identifying myself as someone who may have a problem. And so that would be, something they would want to avoid.
But or they don't even want to say, I even asked about it, because somebody might think that there's an implication.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
it's marvelous that you keep telling people.
Yeah, we'll keep doing it. We'll do it a little different next time. We'll plan it so we have a captive audience in the school. This time we attempted to do it outside of the school. Thought it might be fun. We planned on 75 kids is what we figured probably would show up, hoping, being positive, and had t-shirts and prizes. So I have t-shirts. If any of you give these out to a teen that you know, and if they bring it back, we'll have a t-shirt for them. So we have t-shirts at the crisis center. So
First of all, thank you for doing it. I think it's a great message to get out to our kids and everything. I think probably the best venue we can do is something like we're doing with Metro. We pull grade level into
yeah, that's what I wanted
by
to do.
gender into the cafeteria. We have a very frank talk to them.
Oh,
Dave Scott has always been quite wonderful to come in and talk Measure 11 and some of those things.
Tell me what that is.
Measure 11 is that if you commit a felony, it's automatic that you go to prison for, is it 8 years, I think? It's mandatory sentencing.
All right.
So that you're mandated to advise children that if they do this,
Yeah.
if they're, if they do something bad, they go to jail?
Anything related to sexual crimes that rise to the level of felony. You know, the other thing the other thing we've adopted as far as talks is, you know, social media and consequences related to posting things on social media. Which seems to be one of our bigger issues these days.
I think it's a huge issue, and I'm glad that the school is taking the position on it.
Especially after a 3-day shutdown in the fall.
Well, the bullying, the,
That's separate.
all the things that go on, sometimes we don't even use the right words. But, kids are very prone to saying hurtful things and not realizing the impact of their words.
The thing I handle the health organizations for is that Abby Finetti comes down and talks to all the 6th grade classes every year about, well, sex and right choices, boundaries, and all that kind of stuff too. So she does a wonderful job on that. So we have all these breakout groups. We do send a letter out to parents and let them know what we're talking about. I think this thing would be a great thing to
The new advocate who works with me in the office, she did 3 presentations for the health class on dating relationships, and that was in December.
Good.
And so we're there, and we're working on bringing a curriculum to work with kindergartners and up, so hopefully that will be something we can get started in schools.
Well, that's wonderful. I totally support that.
One thing that was reminded, that someone that I know runs a big business said, you know, when it comes to public education, advertising, sometimes the drip, drip, drip method is the best way. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit another place, and before long, people start realizing behavior that's inappropriate shouldn't be appropriate and not acceptable. So all of this, the more that we keep doing it, whether public health is talking to kids, whether Abby Finetti, anyone, we have lots of people talking about this. The more we talk about it, it may not sink in the first time, second time, 10th time, but maybe the 20th time it does. And after all, that's what we do.
Another thing, I think it's been, I thank Charlie for it, Judy for it. We do have a part-time school nursing district now, and that's been invaluable. I think Jack Thompson's trying to increase the LTE more, so having those conversations in addition to other things like insulin regulation for diabetic children and things like that. So hats off to you and you both.
And we've got 9 guy curriculums and 11 girl curriculums that are evidence-based that we purchased last year. I say we, the prevention department, that are being used by Jim Nickel and also by youth mentors. And they have specific different curriculums among them that deal with different issues. And you're more than welcome to take one of those and use one of those if you guys decide to do a multi-session or whatever like that. But we spent $2,300 on buying those curriculums because we have folks that go through youth mentors over and over, and same with juvenile probation, and having them have to repeat a curriculum isn't good, but searching for new evidence-based curriculum is also not good. So I said, we have the money, let's do it, and they're putting those in. So if you look for anything specific that you're seeing as a trend in the school, Jim or Daphne or whoever can come in and go, we need this one now, and we can focus that way. So I'm really excited about it because they seem pretty solid.
Well, having Jim down there is quite wonderful. Coach, of course, he's lived in the trenches down there too, so he has that particular insight. So that's a real bonus for us.
Different curriculum.
Well, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a job, and it's a curse that you have the other job. It's so bad too.
Thank you, Gloria. Judy, anything you want to share?
No, not really anything
Yeah.
to update on my part.
So we're just going round table, Charlie, for public comment or to share anything new. Is there anything you would like to share?
Not today. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you.
Thank you, you too.
Diane? Jackie? Andrea?
Well, maybe some of you have already heard, but the Climate and Lake class, Climate and Lake Action, hired someone yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I sat on, Michelle and I sat in on the interviews with several of their team members. And the person's going to be located here in our building, a full-time person, really exciting. But they also left some community needs assessment survey kind of things, if anybody's interested in filling one out. I think they're just maybe trying to get a base for where they
We'll
Pass them out.
preparing, but if anybody.
Yeah.
It's a local person? Was it a local person?
A new
A new
local person.
Somebody's
Yes.
moving here.
Yes.
Yes.
And she has connections here, so she'll stay and she's excited.
Well, I was
Yeah,
gonna fill
so
out the
hard
no and then.
Yeah,
yes,
Survey.
right.
You're not a resident.
But also I don't know if you guys have seen these. We have been really working pretty hard. We have something we're calling the Lakeview Local. And it's 2 Thursdays a month. We're trying to, the first Thursday and the third Thursday, anywhere anyone wants to go in Lakeview, we would like to drive them. We have funds for this. It's a low income pot of money, but used for anyone that wants transportation on Thursdays. We just ask that you give us some notice, a day or two would be nice, so we can make sure we have a driver the whole day or part of the day based on how many people we have. But we've now driven 3 people and we've been offering it for 3 months. And everybody says, we need transportation, but so it's been on the radio, it's in the newspaper numerous times, it's been on social media, but I just really, maybe there's some stigma behind riding a senior bus, perhaps, but we have a brand new blue shiny one that's pretty, so, if you hear of anyone, we'd love to, it doesn't have to be shopping, if you're getting into public health or to things, or.
We tell our clients all the
It's
time.
just, and I think we just have to keep doing and.
Keep
we'll
getting the word
eventually
out. Yeah.
get to-
Let them know we believe in it. Yeah. Cause it's like right now I'm driving, but I'm getting to the age where maybe I won't be next month. I don't know.
Well, I hope that when you decide that, I'm not near.
I won't decide it, it'll be decided for me. But it's a good thing to know. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Any, Will? Thank you, share.
I talked to Michelle.
Nancy?
Just that the opioid, the RCOR project, we're spending $12,000 around our Lake County, and some of that's regional, a couple thousand of that's regional. And then the $9,700 also will be in Klamath County when they get their stuff all together, on addressing the big issues that we saw come out of the survey from the big opioid survey that went out. So things like a large number of our people said, oh, we understand we shouldn't share it, but then also a large number of people got their opioids that were prescribed from them from a friend or a family member. So, things like that, we looked at those things, and that's what we're trying to make sure people know where the drug take-back sites are, and, that you can get very quickly addicted to opioids, and so here's other options, and you can choose to make that option before you go into surgery. just all those kinds of things. So if you hear it's on radio, it should be on Spotify, it should be on social media, you should see and hear things all over. And we hope that you will. So.
Thank you, Francie. Vanessa, are you still on the phone?
Yes.
Did you have any update about the new dental office in Lakeview?
I do.
Oh, nice.
We are going to be opening the doors to patients on the 2nd of March, so a few more weeks. And the first week of March, we'll be sending out postcards to all our active patients, running the newspaper ad, Facebook posts, and we'll be contacting the Chamber of Commerce for doing an open house event.
And where exactly will it be, Vanessa?
It's 19 South East Street, so the back side of the courthouse, kind of right on Claw Bank.
Oh, it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
I just was asking.
And they just put the signage up outside today, so if you drive down there, you'll know exactly where the building is.
Marvelous.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Great. Yeah, and then also we're gonna be doing our outreach hygienist here, on the 6th of March at the Union Elementary School. And that's it for Advantage update.
Thank you, Vanessa. Any updates from other people on the phone?
Victor, this is Darwin. I've been listening. I wasn't able to make it. Sorry, I couldn't get down there, but thank you all for the updates, and I'll try to make it down with you next time. But if anybody needs me, just get a hold of me. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, Darwin.
We always need you, Darwin.
Stretch that, you know.
So that concludes the public comments and
So if you haven't filled out the demographics, you'll get that to our vendor now. And then you have them physically with you, the other one?
I have all of them. Do you want me to?
I'll just
Yeah,
make them
we
with
can just give it to you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. The meeting